Hello, everyone. My name is D2 Kasui with Urban Financial Services Coalition. I am the national president of the advisory board of Urban Financial Services Coalition, and we have a special treat for everyone tonight. We have a special session entitled Our History, Our Stories, Our Future, featuring Damita, Barbee, and Ann Bush, NAUB and UFSC national presidents. We get to hear from both sides of the ledger, what it was on the NAUB side, what it was on the Urban Financial Services side. And so we're so excited to be able to have this conversation. Of course, we always have an agenda. We're going to do welcomes. So welcome, everyone. And if you would just throw in the chat one word that describes how are you feeling tonight? One word, just go ahead and throw it in the chat as part of our welcome. That would be great. We'll also have a short networking activity where you get a chance to talk to your colleagues. We will hear from the Urban Financial Services Coalition National President. Then we'll introduce our panelists. We'll have a conversation with them. And while we're having a conversation with them, you will be able to send in questions via the chat, and we'll answer some of those questions either during the conversation or at the end, or we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions during the Q&A period. So what I would like to do now, thank you so much for your breakout room. I would now like to bring to the floor the Urban Financial Services Coalition's National President, Ms. Ola Truelove, for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Kasui. It is an honor to be here this evening. Again, my name is Ola Truelove, and I am part of an awesome executive board for the Urban Financial Services Coalition, serving today as the national president. And I'd like to say greetings from all of the board. We are so excited about all the accomplishments of 2020. Although we've been in an unprecedented time, we made so many wonderful strides in 2020, and we are so looking forward to 2021. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I am so grateful to have Damita, Barbee, and Ann Bush that will be speaking to us and sharing how they came through the National Urban Bankers and Urban Financial Services Coalition in such an awesome way. So again, thank you all so much for being in attendance tonight. May you all have a wonderful, safe, and blessed Merry Christmas.
Thank you too.
Thank you, Ola.
Absolutely. Next, I'm going to introduce our panelists. Our first panelist that I would like to introduce to all of you is Miss Ann Bush. Currently, she does philanthropy work with community organizations and the boards on which she serves. Ms. Bush started her career in the financial services industry and held several positions in branch administration, operations, lending, and wealth management until her retirement as vice president in the JPMorgan Private Bank and JPMorgan Securities. Most recently, Ms. Bush served as the chief credit officer for True Fund Financial Services Incorporated, a community development financial institution that provides lending to nonprofits and small businesses. Ms. Bush has been listed in several directories, including the International Directory of Distinguished Leadership and Who's Who of Women Executives. Ms. Bush is also the recent recipient of several awards, including the Urban Bankers Coalition Incorporated Banker of the Year Award, and the Hume B. Smith Award, and the Harlem YMCA Black Achievers Award, and the National Eagle Leadership Award. Ms. Bush has served as Vice President of the Community Council for the Medgar Evers College, City of New York Board, and President of the Society for Clinton Hill, and board members of the Virtual Education and Life Skills Mentoring Services. And she is also a member of the past President Advisory Board of the Urban Financial Services Coalition, the UFSC National Association, and she also had served as the former National President of NAUB and the former President of the National Association of Urban Bankers. And of course, she was President of the New York chapter of Urban Financial Services Coalition. And she has so many accolades that we would spend all day introducing all of her accolades.
There's
so let's
nothing
give her
left for me to say.
Let's give her a big round of applause, Miss Ann Bush. And I'm going to bring up on the stage her colleague and friend, Miss Damita Barbee. She is a senior consultant with Barbee and Associates, an event planning and management company. Through her personal and professional and educational experiences, she has become an enthusiastic and creative leader, assisting companies and individuals in achieving their optimum goals for special events. Prior to her current position, Ms. Barbee enjoyed 35 years in the financial services industry and treasury management for commercial and corporate banking clients with several national organizations. So many, too numerous to mention tonight. Ms. Barbee has also served as National President of NAUB and National President of Urban Financial Services Coalition. She also held positions as the National Vice President, National Secretary, VP of Conference Planning, and everything else that needed to be done with Urban Financial Services Coalition. During her terms as National President, the Corporate Advisory Board was established and student chapters, so the Student Alliance Program was voted into the national organization. She is active in her community. Ms. Barbee serves on the board of directors for the Bay Area Christian Movement for the Poor Incorporated. She also serves as an ambassador for the Donor Network West and serves as the advisor to the UFSC San Francisco Bay Area chapter. And Ms. Barbee also received the Robert J. Samuel Award, which is the highest award given to an individual by the national organization. And she also served as chapter president twice in San Francisco and received Outstanding Member and President's Award. And then she also have educational accomplishments with the University of San Francisco, IBM Sales Management, and ACH certification, and was also installed in the Hall of Fame of the National Association of Black Women. Let's give Ms. Barbee a big round of applause. Excellent, 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 excellent. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a couple of questions. I'm going to throw you a softball easy question. And I'll start with you, Ms. Bush. How have you been handling the COVID-19 pandemic? And what is one insight that you learned about yourself and one activity that the COVID-19 has allowed you to do that you normally would not be able to do?
Okay. So for pandemic, from the beginning, everything just stopped. So it gave me time, as I'm sure it did a lot of other people, time to sit, reflect, just gave you time that you never had before. I was working for 40 years before the pandemic, 30 years in financial services at the bank. And then, for the couple of stints I did after that, So the cumulative effect of 40 years in corporate America, that you come home and you throw your keys in the dish, and then you keep on going. This is the time that it gave me to really sit and see what was going on, catch up on a lot of things that needed to be done, that kind of thing, and realize that I'm not Superwoman. You know, because when I was working, especially at the bank, forget it, I thought I could do everything. I mean, and I tried. You know, if you had 5 invitations for an evening, you went to all 5 things. Now it's like pick one, and that's where you're going. So it gave me a lot of time to really, you know, look back and take a retrospective look and really focus on what things I think are important to do, that kind of thing. Did you ask me anything else?
Oh, no, thank you. I
Okay.
will pose the same question to Ms. Barbee. How have you been handling the pandemic, and what's one insight that you learned about yourself during COVID-19? And what's one thing that you have one activity that COVID-19 has allowed you to do that you normally wouldn't be able to do?
Well, first of all, considering the nature of our business, which is event planning, all of that came to an end. As we were looking at proposals for different things, when the shutdown was implemented, then everybody started canceling. So you have to become creative in other ways. I've learned to clean out my closets better. I'm doing really good at that. But at the same time, I'm buying things online since I can't go in the stores. So I think that we've created a monster here. It has been an incredible time in our lives, because you recognize you really don't have to go outside every day. You really don't. I don't know what I was doing, but I was gone all the time. And with the pandemic, I'm in the house because of medical issues that prevent me from doing a lot of things. So, you know, you just put yourself as the priority, and you learn to adjust accordingly. There are so many things we were doing before, and we thought we were real busy, that we really don't do anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you both for sharing that. Now I'd like to get into a little bit about your past, and I would love to know a little bit about your inspiration. You know, can you share the name of one leader or person or influential person in your life that had a profound impact on you? I'll start with you, Miss Barbee.
Well, everybody that knows me well knows that my mother has always played a major role in my life. Always. She taught me how to be a banker more so than the bank did. You know, because she would always tell us about budgets and things like that. But other than my mother, my role in the organization, my inspiration was Gail Snowden, who was the first female president of the organization. I was the second. But Gail was one of the most professional, intelligent women I've met in a long time. So I would say Gail.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Miss Ann Bush, you know, would you like to share a person that was very influential to you?
Well, I'm going to echo my mother and father, because they always told us you could do whatever you want to do. There was no limits on what we could aspire to be. And, you know, that's something I've always taken to heart, and that's something that I've always done. In terms of my professional career, most of you know Nat Harris, who has since, you know, passed on, but he was a big inspiration to me in becoming national president, national vice president, national president. So, you know, at the time, there were influences from, you know, anybody. I have always said mentors come in many shapes, forms, sizes, and ages. They don't have to be older than you. They could be somebody that's younger than you, that's giving you a new idea or how to do something. And then the other people that I really had latched on to and really provided a clear focus and direction for me and helped me specifically at times were Bob Lip, I'm sure a lot of people remember that name, was president of Chemical, and Walter Shipley, who was chairman of Chase when he retired. So those two have always reached out and helped me along the way.
Absolutely. You know, we don't stand on the mountain by ourselves. You know, we are empowered by other people. And so if anybody here on the line, if you have someone that has provided mentorship to you, go ahead and throw their name in the chat and give them some props to thank them for all the ways that they inspired and provided inspiration to you. As we continue the conversation, we'll definitely like to see some of those names. And Ann, I'm going to throw you the next question with, let's talk about NAUB. And can you share how you got started with NAUB on the local level and then on the national level?
I actually started on the local level. I was working at the time at the bank, and Bernice Priolo, I don't know how many people know her from New York, said to me one day at work, I have a meeting that I think you may be interested in. Why don't you come? And I went to this meeting, and I think that's all she said to me. And I went to this meeting, and as Bernice will tell you, you couldn't stop Ann. You know, I was in a room full of African-American professional people. I had never seen such an array of professional people in my life. And I said, this is a group that I need to be involved with. So that was on the local level. And then, you know, once I started to get involved with various committees and things like that, then I ran for various positions on the board and eventually became president of the chapter. As for the national, I think I alluded to it before. I said people like Nat Harris are the ones who had encouraged me to run for vice president of NAUB at the time. And that's how I got started in national level board activity, and then eventually became president.
All right. Awesome. Miss Barbee, same question to you. How did you get started?
Well, from a local perspective, I was recruited by Farrell Childs, who was with the San Francisco chapter at that time. He and I were both members of the Bank of America public speaking group. And he used to walk around with these membership applications inside his jacket all the time. And I thought he was flirting with me, and instead he gives me an application. So anyway, I went to a meeting, and it was like, as I was telling the group during our networking session, I was like a kid in a candy store. There were Black professionals of all ages, all walks of life in banking at that time. And I was just ecstatic. I couldn't wait to go to a meeting. So once I got involved locally, I was over the Professional Development Committee and then became president eventually. And as far as national, I would say that I was asked to run to be vice president of the national organization at that time. And then I became president because we had vice president, president-elect. So if you were vice president, you automatically were going to become president. But again, hard work because I was national secretary twice, and then vice president, and then president.
Absolutely. That is excellent. I love the progression because it really like it starts on the local level where the action starts. And as people learn their chops, you know, they go to the big leagues. They become part of the national organization. Now, I would like, Damita, if you could just think back a little bit about, you know, during that time, you know, can you give us a sense, you know, of the, you know, 80s, you know, early 90s? What was it like for African-American professionals in the financial services industry? And why was NAUB very important at the time?
Back in the 80s, I would say, we even though we can have a million degrees, we can have all of this support from within our own circles, the companies were not recognizing African Americans for their talent. There were not a lot of Bob Lips and people like that. You had to have someone really big in the companies to help you along. Their version of, to me, diversity was, oh, we have Pat Skates or Sanford Livingston or somebody at a certain level, that's good enough. Well, it's a lot more. I hate to hear companies say we couldn't find qualified Black people, because we've always been there. So back then it was worse because they didn't even look, or they didn't try to look. So NAUB played a major role because we pretty much decided, let's call on these corporate CEOs and talk to them about the value we bring to them as an organization, the skills that we can help fine tune for their employees that they're not doing in-house. And getting them to buy into that, and that by way of our national conferences and even our regional meetings, we became like a training ground somewhat for these companies also. So it's been a long struggle, and we need to go back in front of them again. But back then it was difficult, but we did get support eventually.
Absolutely. Thank you, Damita. Same question to you, Ms. Bush, President Bush. What was it like for African Americans, and why was NAUB such a valuable tool?
As Damita pointed out, NAUB and the local chapters became a way for the corporations to recognize you and to see who you are and who was out there. And it also was a chance for them to get involved, but we had to recognize, for them to get involved, what's the upside for them? You know, it can't be just the one-sided, you know, support us so that we can get through, because who cares? And it's the same thing today. Same thing then. You know, diversity for them was putting urban in front of the name of a department. You know, now I think they have delineated and specifically promoted several people to very senior titles. But I have to tell you, with that, they created a ton more titles anyway for the white counterparts. So I don't know that it significantly makes a real difference, but certainly to, you know, the perception is that, yes, they're definitely recognizing more African Americans and minorities across the board and giving them, you know, kudos, so to speak.
Absolutely, absolutely. Both of you brought up two very good points. And now I want to transition to our conversation about leadership. And leadership is important. And both of you served as national president, first on the NAUB side, and then on the side of Urban Financial Services Coalition. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, where did you get the leadership skills necessary to lead a national organization? And then talk a little bit about, you know, why you ran for president the first time and what made you come back and do it again. I will start with you, Ms. Bush.
Because we're nuts. But, you know, I mean, I always thought Damita and I were kind of, you know, we thought very similarly. And when you say, well, why did you think you could run it? I think I could run anything. You know, just tell me what the job is and tell me where, you know, tell me what you call it, tell me where you put it. And I'll do it. So, and I think Damita's the same way. I think most of us in urban bankers, in my chat room, I said urban bankers, and they said, that's how you know you're from the old school, Ann. But seriously, I think this organization taught many of us, if not all of us, that you can do anything, you can be anywhere, you can be anyone, and give you the confidence to pull it through. You know, it takes a really good group of people around you that support you and push you through it. You can't do it alone. You know, it's always at the willingness of people who are going to support and be with you every step of the way. You know, you can't do everything. Like I said, that's one of the things pandemic taught me after 99 years. You know, you can't do everything. You really need the support of the people that are there. And I think that's what we had with this group. And I think it's something that still is there and just needs to be nurtured. And as Damita said, we need to go back to the CEOs, because I think we kind of lost our way and continuity with that. But certainly, you know, it's one of those things, like you always say, the people at the very top are the ones that you need to convince, because they're going to make it happen. It's the ones in the middle that are giving you the trouble. So, you know, you really need to reach out to the senior people in your organization and get their help and buy-in.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. That is powerful. I wrote that down. You know, start from the top. You know, you can spend a lot of time trying to convince the people in the middle, when you can have one conversation at the top, and that will get them all in. Thank you so much. Same question to you, Ms. Barbee. Talk a little bit about, you know, what gave you the confidence to be national president, why you decided to run, and why you decided to do it again. And Ann said it was like, go ahead, the floor is yours.
But we could do anything. I was currently at Bank of America when I first joined the organization, and I was managing a region, the Oakland region, for their merchant card services division. So I knew I could manage people, and I had a very diverse group of employees. So I figured that you can't go wrong with that. But then once I joined the organization and saw exactly how I could take these skills that I used on my job and help run the organization, I made a decision that, hey, I could do this and be president also. That is truly my way of thinking. And it worked. It worked. When I ran for secretary, national secretary, that was a good door opener. And then when I was asked to run for vice president, president-elect, again, as Ann mentioned, you have to have a good support base. And I did, not just locally, but also from the different chapters around the national organization. Because I remember talking to people from Detroit and Atlanta and New York and Florida, and specifically, because that's where most of our members were at that time. So you really wanted those chapters to support you when it came time to elect. And all of that worked in my favor. And at the same time, it made me a better manager of my people at work, because you're managing at a distance, because they never really saw you. You were just a communication by email or something like that. The reason why we came back again is because we were asked. We had an advisory board call, and Ann wasn't on the call at that time, but the current president at that time, Doris Thomas, called an advisory board meeting and just said that we needed to, one of us needed to consider running again. And of course, Nat and everybody saying, no, no, no. And I didn't say anything. And then I really think it was Nat, he said, let Ann do it. But so when Ann came on the line and she's like, hey, everybody, and we're sort of like laughing. But she graciously, because Ann was getting ready to retire. And here we are asking her for the good of the organization. Do you think you could do A, B, and C? And she graciously went back to her employer, I guess, to see if she would have their support. I went to my employer to ask would they continue to support me. They were already supporting me, just being on the advisory board. But then I asked them would they support me being vice president. And they said yes. So that's why we're back. But what needs to be known is that at that time, the membership of the organization was really starting to drop. When I was president, I think the highest number of chapters we had when it was NAUB was 51. when we came back in 2003, I think the membership was down to, the number of chapters was down to like 41 and dropping. So there was a big gap and it was constantly dropping. So we needed to do a lot of things. And one of the things that Ann had on her agenda was to get the name change put through. And I'm sure anyone on this call that knows what we went through to get the name change from NAUB to Urban Financial Services Coalition knows that that was such a hard battle, but that was part of when we came back.
Absolutely. And you want to add anything about that? I mean, that's a question that gets asked a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say I was getting ready to retire. I don't remember anything about the phone call, but I know that I definitively said that if the bank said that they would support it, then I would do it. And I went back and the bank said, yeah. And I'm like, what else can I ask for? You know? But that had a lot to do with it because, you know, you have chapters out there that are expecting you to come and speak at dinners and lunches and, you know, whatever regional conferences and things. And you have to do a lot of traveling. And it's, you know, it costs money to do that. So I said, if the bank was still going to be supportive, then I would go ahead and do it because I knew I was retiring. And the thing is that when I retired, the bank had already given me a year to be a loaned executive to a nonprofit. And they said to me, Ann, you're retiring. So if the nonprofit wants to keep you now, they have to pay you. And I sat and I had a chat with them and they said, no, they couldn't afford me. So I said, no problem. I'll take December off and I'll come back and just finish up what I'm doing. I won't take any new projects. And within 2 weeks, the chief financial officer called me up and he said, I know you're the only one that knows what they're doing up there. So I need to hire you, but I can't pay you what the bank paid you. And I said, no problem. But let me tell you that I also am going to be running a national trade association, which means, you know, I have to travel every now and then. So they were like, fine. Because, you know, at that point, I didn't realize that they were going to hire me to stay on. So I stayed there another 5 years. You know, so, you know, it just depends on what's going on. But the thought occurred to me just in preparation of this call. I said, you know, it's funny that I never thought to say I could be a loaned executive for NAUB for UFSC. Because that's something that we, you know, grappled with, oh my gosh, years. When I first got into it, they had big proposals and they wanted to present it to banks. And I don't know that we ever really presented it and it got turned down, as opposed to we never presented it. But it was a big proposal that we had put together. And quite frankly, that probably would have been something that would have caught on. You know, because I'm saying for the bank to do it for me, they do it, you know, every now and then they'll do it. And I said that it was a good thing to do for people who are retiring, that if you get them to sign on and help a nonprofit, but the bank said to me, you have to pick it. We're not going to pick it. So, I mean, they were leaving everything for me to go ahead and do it. So, you know, it's a good opportunity for somebody who's on their way out of the bank to step into another venue. And who knows, maybe now start a second career in another industry. But the bank fully supported them within that loaned executive year. And that's what we were trying to do with urban bankers in the beginning. And it may be something that they may look at now, the financial institutions may even look at now as something that they can really put a handle on, because it gives them an opportunity to say that they gave you as the loaned executive and they're helping the nonprofit, you know? So that's something to put, again, in the back of your head, that it may be something you want to pursue.
Absolutely, that's excellent. And while we're on that point, and you mentioned several times talking with people at the top. Can you go a little bit more about, how people want to develop the relationship with the people in the power structure so that you can be supported? I think we run into a lot of our younger members that don't get the same level of support. And some of it is things outside of their control, but sometimes I think they're not doing things that are within their control. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I tend to look at it the same way I looked at my job. And that's to say, when you were trying to I did middle market lending for almost 20 years. And when I did middle market lending, part of your job, in addition to doing the lending, was to go out and get new clients. And we had to develop relationships with CPAs and lawyers, and we would hold these cocktail parties. And you were supposed to come back with like as many names as you could, because these were people that you were supposedly going to start to develop a relationship with. And the key to everything was relationships. And we used to go out to these cocktail parties, and I'm telling you, my head would be spinning, because you're collecting like 20, 40, 50 cards, and you're saying, oh, bald, oh, looks like Michael J. Fox. You're trying to think of like, how are you going to remember these people? So I said one night, I'd never forget, one night I said, forget it. I said, this is not right. I said, I'm going to talk to 3 people, and I'm going to follow up with the 3 people and really start to get to know these people. And the other thing was, most of them were men. In those days, I was the only Black in the room. I was the only female, the whole thing. So you really had to kind of, pull yourself together and decide what you were going to do. So I said, I'm only going to talk to 3. Do you know that, okay, so say this was September. By the following September, I'm going to tell you that any cocktail party I walked into, I knew everybody. Because you had to do it in a systematic and logical way, because if you went out and did what they told you to do, you'd be nuts. You wouldn't get anywhere. But it's the same thing with the senior people. I'm telling you, I used to attend all the annual meetings. Everybody who works at the bank doesn't attend the annual meetings. I used to go to the annual meeting, and in the beginning, the New York chapter used to buy stock from all the banks so that we had a foot in the door that way. And I used to go to all the annual meetings, and that if I'm in the room with the chairman or the president or whatever, I'm going to go talk to them. And if they see me enough, they're going to remember who I am. And they're going to start, it's not overnight. It's not overnight, but it's like every little thing. We used to do with the customers. If you heard that they were going to be honored at a dinner, we used to buy tickets and go to the dinner. So that way we would get to know them on a personal level. I had a client who was jewelry designer, and she was having some show at Macy's or one of the stores. I told one of my girls, I said, come on, let's go. We're going up to Macy's and we're going to buy some jewelry and that. But that's how they get to know you, because now they're seeing you in their space. And to see us in their space enough times, they're going to say, wait a minute, who is this? And then if somebody sees you talking to them, then they're going to say, wait a minute, who is that? I'm telling you, that's how little by little, it's like I said, it's not overnight, but those little things make a difference.
Absolutely. Relationships are important.
Yes.
Damita, you want to take a stab? Anything additional you'd like to add in terms of, building that relationship with the C-suite?
In my line of work in treasury management, I was always dealing probably with the CFO, who was getting his direction from the CEO. So those were just different ways that I was in that environment, because I was always there trying to get their business. And once I did get their business, I would always take the opportunity to talk about, or rather, I was always asked, something where it opened the door for me to talk about the organization. And if I was at a major bank, I would always ask about their African-American employees, and different things that they did. Am I still on?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
still on.
Oh, okay. I had a phone in front of me. But anyway, there are just different ways. But for me, it was easy because I was a corporate calling officer. So getting your foot in the door, but even more so, one of the things that I always encourage that generation behind me to do is learn as much as you can about the people that run the companies or, the executive board. And when you go on the website, the beauty of the internet is that it has the list of the who's who at all companies. So you can prep yourself before you even attempt to make the call, or if you're there, you already have a card on these individuals, on your phone, that is. So it's just different ways. Ann has provided some very interesting ways to do it. And I just encourage people to be prepared, always be prepared, and to know who your target is. That is so important.
Absolutely. Excellent. Hope everyone took good notes. If you have any other best practices that you'd like to share in the chat, for getting connected with the C-suite, please go ahead and share that. And Damita, I'm going to ask you this.
Can I just say
Sure.
one thing? That the people at my bank were always astounded at how many people I knew at the other banks.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like anything that was going on, if we needed somebody at another bank, I would be like, okay, I'll call so-and-so. And they're like, what the? We knew we had somebody in every bank.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's that broad networking. So, a lot of organizations, people just think, okay, I'm a part of the African-American resource group in my organization, which is great, but it gives you a network within in that organization. But if for some reason you get laid off or you want to transition, you don't have a broad relationship. And it sounds like, Ann, you had a broad relationship to NAUB that allowed you to have relationships in other organizations.
Yes, absolutely. And
absolutely.
absolutely. And even after I retired, and then when I was chief credit officer at the CDFI, I did a lot of work with other banks, one being US Bank, and I had to call up Darryl Brown. So, I mean, you just carry it with you, and you hope that these are people that are your friends, for the rest of your life. But certainly everybody can use some help and support at one point or another, and you can pull that out of your hat.
That's right. That's right. Relationships are important. In business, you usually talk about cash is king. I would also say that relationships is the queen. So Damita, I would ask you, what's your fondest memory of Urban Financial Services Coalition that you'd like to share with the group?
Fondest, proudest, which one?
Fondest, either one, whichever works for you.
Well, I have a couple. Getting the corporate advisory board approved, it was implemented in Ann's year, but in 1988, at the end, no, 89, at the end of my first term, we voted to have the corporate advisory board put in place. So that was a very proud moment. And then in 2004, 2005, we voted in the student alliance chapters. So those are very proud moments for me, because in 2004, we lost the vote for student chapters, which was ridiculous. But in 2005, and again, it all goes back to relationships and networking, I made it a point to present the case to any chapter that didn't support it. And it was voted in 2005.
Absolutely. I remember I was there.
Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that. Never. Not that I don't mind losing. I'm not a Trump. But I just couldn't believe that we lost that vote. So 2005, when it was voted in, it was just monumental to me.
Absolutely. How about you, Ms. Bush? What's your proudest or favorite memory of the organization?
Well, Damita's certainly better than I with the dates, that's for sure. But and you know, it's if I have to pick one, I'm going to say when we went to the White House.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just sorry that we didn't, you know, continue after that. But I have to say, no matter what we did, I was proud of it. You know, if you asked me that day, that would have been it. So, you know, if you say to me, what's the biggest regret? I could tell you that in a minute.
And that is?
Who remembers when we were going to try to do the online recruiting?
Wow.
I do.
This is before monster.com.
Right.
Okay, I'm sure that once we killed it, that somebody at that recruiting firm went and got these people together, and that's how they started it. But we had it all set up, and people were afraid
Right.
to put their names in because they thought that the banks were going to see their name and then they were going to get fired. And I'm like, guess what? You got fired anyway. You know, we had it all set up. It wouldn't be their name. It would be a number, the whole bit. And here comes monster.com. So, you know.
There you go. There you go.
So we talked about that forever.
Absolutely. Look, y'all were a little before your time. And so since we're talking about timing, and I'll start with you, Ms. Bush, what are your thoughts about Kamala Harris becoming the first African-American woman to be Vice President-elect of the United States of America?
I think it's fabulous. I think it's absolutely fabulous. I was a little hesitant at first that I thought Biden would not pick her because she was so strong.
Right.
But I said, you know, if he really thinks about it, he needs somebody like her. And I guess eventually he saw the light. But I'm absolutely thrilled. I think she's going to be great. You know, it would be good. And she's part of, I think it's the AKAs. She's out of Howard.
Mhm.
You know, I think you guys need to use every connection that you can use to get her on a slate somewhere, you know, because that is absolutely how you take advantage of what's going on currently. And, you know, you may not have her ear, or for all you know, maybe there's somebody in the organization that is friends with her. But I think it's a great opportunity for you to reach out and be part of the administration and the different think tanks that are going on. I think Ernie Skinner sent out, I don't know how many got it, but he sent out a notice maybe about 2 weeks ago for people, if they're interested in becoming part of the cabinet, to submit, you know, resumes. I don't know if anybody here is interested, but certainly if you're young enough and you have the drive and ambition, that's what they need. You know,
Absolutely.
and the more they see the name, then the more things you get invited to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Damita, any thoughts you'd like to add in reference to Ms. Harris being the first African-American Vice President-elect?
Well, like Ann, I am totally supportive and extremely proud of Kamala. After all, she is a Californian.
After all.
So, but no, I think that she's going to be a valuable asset to Biden. And I think that her strong personality plus her legal background is definitely going to come in handy. I just feel that all of this about what the executive branch should look like, it has to reflect all of us, starting with the president, vice president on down. And I cannot say enough about her. I'm just so glad that they won the election. We've just got to get them sworn in and the other people picked out. So anyway, I'm very happy about it.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a pause right here. If anyone has a comment or particular points that they would like to ask Ms. Barbee or President Bush, I will give you an opportunity. You can either raise your hand and I can acknowledge you, or you can throw it in the chat. right, got a couple going in the chat. All right, I got one question here in the chat, and this is for you, Ms. Bush.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about the New York chapter and its impact on the rest of the organization? I guess they're trying to say how
And
has
them not being here?
yes.
No words can express my emotion. And let me just make I don't even know what to say. When they were falling apart and it was brought to my attention, we tried to put it back together. And it was, it happened to coincide with me leaving New York for another job. This is after I had retired and everything. And I was literally on a plane to Tampa to do the consulting work for the banks that were merging. So I wasn't even going to be in New York. And we had senior executives, you know, we knew enough to get the senior executives from all the various banks in New York together to try to put it back together. And it just kind of fell apart on us. So I had to just throw my hands up and go. I couldn't. I was in the process of leaving for a job. There was nobody that was willing to pick up the slack. So we just had to let it go by the wayside. And I said, let the chips fall to where they may. And if they're going to come back, they'll come back. What's the impact that it's had on the national and the other chapters? I'm sure it's had some kind of an impact. I'm not sure of what the dissolution rate was and how many chapters you lost every year, but I'm sure it had an impact on that. But the chapters that are still around seem to be doing fine. I have a lot of feelings about it. I'm sorry, you don't know how many times, and this is as recently as probably a couple of months ago, somebody said to me, oh, can you give me a contact for New York? Because I have somebody who's going in, and I'm like, no, they don't have a chapter. You have to, go through the national, and then they'll divvy it up. But it used to be so easy for people, regardless of what was going on. They knew that we met at first Friday of every month at a certain hotel. I mean, obviously now it's different, but it was like a standard rule and everybody abided by it. But I don't even know what to say. It's beyond me, but things happen. And like I said, if it's going to come back, it'll come back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We have a question from Ms. Ola Trulove.
Yes, I wanted to first thank you, Damita, Barbee, and Ann Bush, for everything that you did for our organization in the past, and ask sincerely if you ladies would continue to stay active with us as we move forward. You are so right. When I started and joined the organization, I went to a huge conference in New Orleans that had 1,500 people. That was the first time I had an opportunity to meet Damita, Barbee, and she was coming on as the new president. And I was empowered being there with all of that. And I was a younger person then. We're talking about over 20 years ago. And now what I want to do is continue to encourage the generations behind me. I want them to see what we've done, but we talk about how it was so difficult then. And what I can say to you ladies, being in treasury management, continuing to be in banking for 44 years, not very much has changed. And we have to continue talking, and we have to continue promoting ourselves and working with each other, networking. I do the same thing that you've done, Ann. When I walk into a room, so many people know me because I'm a tall Black woman. And there's not a lot of us around in the room in those spaces. But what I want us to do is continue empowering each other. Richard Holmes, Otis Watson, Mr. Skinner. I mean, all of us need to continue to come together to move this organization forward. We can do it. It's not over yet. I mean, we're going to be celebrating 50 years in 2024. I need you all, not asking you all to roll your sleeves up and do any hard work. That's what these young people are going to do, because that's what I'm talking about them doing. So thank you, but I am still asking for your continued support because the organization need and desire your help. Thank you.
You know, Ola,
Yeah.
I will be supportive wherever you need me. And I just want to say that I'm just grateful that my chapter here in San Francisco continues to flourish and keep me involved wherever I can assist. But you're right, the young people have got to step up and move this forward. And if they need help, we should be there to help them. So I got to give kudos out to Jason and Gail and Marquita and all these, and Brittany, all these other people. And Otis is back there pushing us and kicking it at them, telling them to do this, do that. So I think that you're right. We do need to stay involved if we can.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of projects that can use assistance now, and you can probably tie it into your jobs depending on what departments you work in, you know, like affordable housing and homelessness and things like that. I mean, the government needs so much help, but you can do it through these nonprofit organizations because they look to them to come in and give advice and consultation. And the bank will turn around and ask. There was a time when the bank, if they needed to do something for Habitat for Humanities or whatever, they would call me up and say, Ann, I need 6 people to go to, can you get them? And I would call up all the urban banker people and they would go. So that's what I'm saying. It has to benefit the institution.
Yes, it does. And even today, in today's environment, we don't have the ability to be gone and take off. Like I asked my company if they would support me in my role as national president. Of course, they said yes, what an honor that would be. But, you know, how long are you going to be gone? How much travel are you going to have to do? How much money is needed? They ask all those questions because those funds aren't available like they were back in the 80s to Black people in urban financial services. Those funds are not available even at the national level. That's why we need to continue to grow our membership. We need to have these events that are raising dollars, asking these large companies if they will support us financially so we can get out in the community. Now we're in a virtual environment, so it should be easier. But at the same time, I don't have the ability to take off work for 6 months and focus on urban financial services. So I do it at night. I do it at Saturday. I do it on Sundays because it is so important to me, just like it is for you ladies back then, yesterday, today, and going forward. It's what it's all about. We've got to continue the legacy.
Absolutely. We have a question from a good friend that we haven't seen in such a long time that used to be in Philadelphia, and she is now in, I think she's in Florida, Carol Miner. I can't think of her maiden name. Go ahead, ask your question. You can unmute yourself. You're still on mute.
I'm sorry, I'm so excited. I said, this is a walk down memory lane and see so many faces. When I moved to Florida, the chapter here disbanded. I went to one meeting and they were down. And so I did try to join the national, but I'm telling you, I'm as busy still down here as I was up there. I thought I was moving to a slower place. I'm still moving fast. But my comment is that I actually also would like to try to be involved to help people be involved, because I'm almost on the retirement track, and so I don't want to be picking up so many things that, you know, I have my retirement planned and what I want to do, But I do want to make myself available. And I tried that. I even got Michelle Manor, if you all remember her.
Yes, well.
I said, we need to join National. And I went and joined National and she never did. But I'll tell you, I joined National and no one ever reached out. Now, that's no excuse for me because I know the organization, but no one ever reached out. So it's important to note that as a national member, somebody should have been saying, hey, hi, how are you? You know, what do you want to be involved in? And so, but no, just my point, my comment is really that, Ola, that I would like to be involved to the extent that I can. And I guess it's just an ask. We can always say what we can do and what we can't do. So I look forward to that. And I'm still doing entrepreneurial stuff. So I'm always good. Mark 1 might be a good place too. So I'm still doing entrepreneurial stuff and still in finances.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right, and Carol was our national treasurer for 2 years.
Right.
Absolutely. It's
And
so good
Carol,
to see.
your last name was Hendricks, right?
I was hoping nobody started talking about name changes now.
Because I know you done had a lot of names, but I spent some good times with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Yes,
mean,
ma'am.
all
We've done
night
a lot of
long
work
time.
together. Different
Yes.
people, we've done a lot of work. Richard, we did the first gospel choir, you know, so
I was in it.
You know, yes, that's right. We've done some great things. And so I don't want to miss that. I look at you and I'm saying, wow, I've missed so much because I should have been, you know, still a part of this, you know, legacy. And that's 10 years I've been in Florida. I have not been involved. And so it's time to pick up and pick up where I left off. Okay.
Well, no worries. We're transitioning to a new year and a new opportunity. I can guarantee that you're going to get a phone call this week. We got the national president on the line. So I'll take one more comment before we do. I wanted to give Al Gourier an opportunity to make a comment or say a few words. You know, we're always so proud of our people in Nevada. Well, used to be in Nevada. Al, anything you'd like to share?
Is there something particular you'd like for me to share?
Oh, no, I mean, just, you know, you had a special group out there in Las Vegas.
We did. And, you know, I was listening to Ann talk about, you know, the challenges in New York. In Vegas, we went through a period of mergers and acquisitions. And there was a time when there were so many institutions that were so supportive of the organization. And in a very short period of time, through mergers and acquisitions, our local chapter just lost institutional support and funding. And I think that became the precipice of challenges for the organization, not being able to support, you know, the events and organizations, and like Ola mentioned about the time away to do things and participation. And it really was sad to see the chapter kind of lose that momentum, because for a while, probably over a decade, we had dozens of African-American executives throughout the Vegas banking industry. And it was a strong chapter. We had a strong national presence, and very successful in terms of mentoring young African-American bankers and finance professionals who were moving through the industry. And that was the beauty of the organization, is that you had that ability to network, you had that ability to mentor and shape and provide opportunities. And, you know, always when I think about the organization, especially what it's done for me and for my career personally, I think about that period of time where it was such a rich growth and development for both junior and senior bankers. And I wish we could find a model where we could rekindle, if not the exact same format, but at least the benefit we got out the organization at that time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're going to give Ann and Miss Barbee, Miss Bush and Miss Barbee, the final question for the night to all of you is, if you could go back through time and give your younger self some advice, what would it be? Ann, do you want to go first?
Don't take no for an answer. And-
I was thinking the same
I'm
thing.
saying that because that's what I mean, but throughout my career, there have been things that happened very mysteriously, and I let it go, and I progressed that way, and it was probably 5 years out of the route, as opposed to me saying something right then and there when the thing happened. And my internet connection is unstable, so I don't know if you're gonna lose me. But I probably could have done things a little quicker if I did not take no for an answer up front.
Absolutely.
Did you hear me or?
Yes, we
Okay,
heard
sorry.
you. Excellent. Don't take no for
No,
an answer.
Because
all
your
the young people on the
screens
line.
were frozen, so I don't know if I froze.
You did.
You did, but we got the gist of your message. Miss Barbee, the same
You got
question
the
to
gist
you.
of,
Yes. Don't take no for an answer.
Now you see how much fun Ann and I had when we were together. I would say always trust your gut. Always trust your gut and never, ever give up. I believe in that. I believe that's how I've been successful. Because in your heart, you know what you want to do. And if you feel that you have the skills and the support base and the ability to incent others to do the things that you need to have done, trust your gut and never give up.